All right, so this video, we've got basically a webbot hit and something I don't know if I've ever done, an Edgar Cayce hit. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet from the, basically around the early 1900s. I think he died in 1943 or 44 or 45, somewhere around there. He was one of these guys, he forecast the day he will die, down to the, right on the day, and sure enough, he's exactly right. He would lay down and go into these, like, kind of a trance, some entity or something, whatever he would speak from, universe, this universal knowledge. The guy had like a 7th grade or so education, I think, 6th or 7th grade. Had to drop out, help around the farm, kind of a thing. But when he went into this state, he could answer anything. He was extremely knowledgeable. People, including the Rockefellers, visited him. That's been noted. Nobody knows what they asked him, but there were people who would ask him, "Hey, who's going to win the horse race Saturday?" And he'd answer it, and he'd be right, and they'd make money. But it would mess him up, and he'd feel terrible and sick after he woke up. And they weren't sure at first why that would happen until they made the connection that anyone who asks, greedy, bullcrap questions, that makes them feel that way. So they started screening the questions before they would let anyone go in, and they would just go in themselves and ask the question and then give them the reply. That way they can screen out that kind of crap, because he would end up answering it. Anyways, pretty phenomenal track record, this guy. And one of the things he said, I'm talking, of course, Edgar Cayce, was that Bermuda Triangle area, that area where Atlantis was alleged to have been at one point or whatever, lands would rise again out of the sea. Okay? Webbot. So many Webbot reports, I couldn't even tell you how many said this. And this is going back years. Lands will be rising from the sea. Underground volcanic activity is going to essentially be causing, from some crustal displacement to just lands rising due to the mass, being spewed out from the volcanic activity, etc. It's going to shift stuff. Things are going to shift. I do remember a global coastal event, which never really seemed to pan out as described in the Webbot. And he'll tell you that. Cliff will tell you that. Yeah, it hasn't happened, and it may have been a big miss, a big fat nothing burger. But then again, with this kind of stuff happening, literally so rapidly, it's about to make your head spin when I read this to you. Is there still a global coastal event to come? Is my question. However, without the global coastal event, the lands rising from seas and whatnot is absolutely in the Webbot reports numerous. That's why I'm titling this, what I titled it. This is an article from the mirror.co.uk. It's a big site, mainstream kind of a site. Hang on, let me clear my throat and I'm going to blow your ears out. Wait. Wait. Hey, are you telling me it's not pausing? Yeah, so maybe I did just cough right in your damn ear. I was sorry about that. Mystery of Bermuda Triangle deepens as dangerous mile-long island suddenly forms in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Oh boy, you gotta be kidding me. No. Webbot, got it right. Edgar Cayce, not surprising because he has such a phenomenal track record, of course, got it right. And I don't think we're done yet, of course. Webbot didn't say, oh yeah, it'll be a one-off, and then, no, the amount of times it was in the Webbot reports, there's going to be this kind of stuff happening all over the damn place, okay? This is not going to be the first, will not be the last. I'll link this article if you want to look at the picture and stuff. I don't want to post it. But it's a pretty big island, and literally, it was not there, like really recently. It says, a mystery island that has been branded dangerous has suddenly formed in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. The crescent-shaped, mile-long island off the tip of Cape Point in Buxton, North Carolina, began rising from the sea this spring. Surrounding the waters of the so-called Devil's Triangle, the sandbank has been dubbed Shelly Island by locals because of the vast quantities of shells which litter the shore. The new island measures around 1 mile long and more than 400 feet wide. Visitor Janice Reagan said she and her 11-year-old grandson christened the island and said it was just a little bump back in April. Well, a bump turned into a mile wide by 400 foot, or mile long by 400 foot wide island. Janice and her grandson are not the only ones who have been exploring the surprise sandbar. The Bermuda Triangle has also been blamed for the disappearance of dozens of planes and ships in the past 100 years. Anglers, seashell collectors who sell seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Now say that fast a few times. You can't do it. Anglers and seashell collectors and photographers have all visited the island, though it is dangerous to get to. Dave Halleck, superintendent of the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. Hold on. Hold on. Cape Hatteras National Seashore superintendent. There's a such thing. Can you see why we're $20 trillion, really $21 trillion in debt now? Can you see? We got things for we got agencies and everything you can think of. Which oversees Cape Point has warned people should not attempt to try and walk or swim across a strong current which happens to flow between that point and the new island. And Bill Smith, president of the North Carolina Beach Buggy Association, has said there could be even more hazards. He said sharks up to 5 feet and stingrays as large as the hood of a truck have been spotted prowling beneath the surface there. We're worried about shark bites, but we're even more worried about drownings. The island popped up in the waters which surround the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The triangle lies in a section of the North Atlantic Ocean. It covers an area of 440,000 miles of sea. It is one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world, with vessels crossing through to get to ports in America, Europe, and the Caribbean. The Bermuda Triangle has also been blamed for the disappearance of dozens of planes and ships in the past 100 years. On average, 4 aircraft and 20 yachts go missing every year. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't actually know that. On average, 4 aircraft and 20 yachts go missing every year? Like still? Wow. And this is in the Bermuda Triangle. This is the tip of it, I guess, you know, from what they're saying. Interesting. You know, and here's the thing. I know the Webbot's not perfect. I know it doesn't get everything right. I know the timing isn't perfect. We know that. I give the disclaimer every time I read a Webbot summary report. It's been a little while, hasn't it? Because Cliff's been so focused on the crypto reports, and for good reason. And there may be another one about to come out here shortly, possibly. But I find that work he does fascinating. It's amazing. And it was years ago where it talked about this stuff happening. You're going to see it. And this is like one of the this is like breaking news as far as I'm concerned. Yet, don't really see it on the news. No one's really talking about it. There's been a couple little, local news stories, I'm sure, no one's really talking about it. I remember Edgar Cayce talking about the North Pole. There'd be a flipping of the poles and where moss and where it is like what do you say, like icy and cold or whatever, moss and fern will grow. I'm thinking, moss and fern will grow where it was like icy and that kind of weather. Wait a minute, South Pole, Antarctica, all the activity over there, all the findings we know that's happening over there, all the melted, snow and ice and whatnot. Moss and fern will grow. Interesting. He's talked about the North Pole going towards, I think he named the specific area, and it was somewhere near some part of Russia or whatever. Somewhere in that general part of the world. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I remember him talking about it, Edgar Cayce. And that would be where the new North Pole is what he was saying. So, remember, this guy's saying this like in the early 1900s. And I'm watching the North Pole, at least the magnetic north, the lines that go from north to south, and you can see it shifting, heading towards where he said. And over the last like 15 to 20 years now, it started off, creeping that way. and then it crept a little faster, and it was so many miles per, you know, year or whatever it was, and then it was a lot more miles per year, and then it just sped up. I don't know what it is that today, like right now. I don't know. But I do know he appears to be right. I do know the webbot also appears to be right. They got some interesting times when a land just rises like that. And the funny thing for me, at least with this one, and maybe they'll all be the same if these are all out in the ocean where this happens, is all of a sudden it being like nicknamed seashore or a seashell island or whatever they call it, because the massive amounts of shells. That's interesting to me. That when it, you know, this thing rises, the shells are just there. So maybe again, if it's something under there like magma, whatever, you know, underneath the earth, underneath the water, of course, pushing it up, and it's pushing everything above it up, you know, until it finally settles down. Well, I could kind of see where you could see seashells coming up, but I'd be interested to know if this happens somewhere else, if the same thing happens. You know, every time we see one, seashells pop up, which maybe for scientists might appreciate that or come up to some conclusion, but whatever. Just want to report this because this is a webbot hit, and this is also an Edgar Cayce hit. Take care.